Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Monday. Wow, that weekend went super, super fast. It certainly did. So here I am. Maddie's off to work. We went live this morning and she was quiet, but thank you for all the birthday messages. So I'm a little bit running behind schedule today, but you know what? Here I am. So thank you all for showing up. So I just wanted to jump on and I wanted to chat. Of course, it's Miracle Monday. So I wanted to chat about miraculous things and miracles that happen in our life. But I also wanted to, I titled it, Don't Miss Your Miracle. Don't miss a miracle. Like miracles happen every day. And you know what? We don't want to miss out on them. Because let me tell you, when you work for Jesus, it's never a dull moment. So as people are jumping on here, I just wanted to, I'm working on my online store, so super exciting, the stuff I have dropping on my online store. So these cuffs, and of course, it's a little warm, but it has a scarf to match, so super cute, super fun faux fur. These are great because you just pull them on and off, so they're great for hot flashes. So all the women that have hot flashes, these are the perfect thing because I can wear these with a poncho and they keep me warm. And when my neck's warm, oh, I also have this. This is going to be on my website. Bracelets. Woohoo! These are all on there. These are on there. So some really blingy fun stuff. But that's just a sideboard. So we're working on that and it's going to be dropping soon. They're adding new stuff. And then I'm going to have a special on when it goes, you know, when we drop that. And y'all can check that out. So here we are. It's Monday. It was a crazy weekend here because Madison had her birthday. So I had talked about that. Hey, Lorna. Hey, Tom. Tom is the one, if anybody I've been talking to about writing a book. I know that I had a few messages last week from different people in the States and in Canada, but Tom is actually offering a master class that he is going to go through the steps from start to finish how to make that happen. So Tom, if you don't mind dropping your link, then that would be super awesome. And the people that are watching that are interested in that, they can contact you. Hey, woohoo! So Tom has written 2 books and he can walk you through that process from start to finish because now he is the pro. Hey Rachel, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. Okay, so here we are. It's Monday. And I am going to just share something that came up on my timeline on Friday and then it just jogged my memory back to that moment in time. So Tom, you go ahead and drop that so that it's there and I don't forget because I have to do my notes because otherwise I get on rabbit trails. So that was my New Year's resolution, is to stick to my notes. So it helps me cover my points and, you know, keep on track and get out there what I, you know, intended to before I hit the live button. Just got out of the pool. Oh, that sounds lovely because in Canada here, it's so cold. I did not just get out of the pool, but I think that is great that you're getting out of the pool. It's probably, I don't know if it's therapy pool, but that sounds like fun, Rachel. So thanks for joining us. These blingy water cups are going to be on my website, my online store that I'm going to be dropping. So stay tuned. So I wanted to go over a few things. And I know I talked a couple weeks ago about, you know, how to seek a miracle and what kind of things you should do and not do and and I had some key points, but this week I wanted to talk about not missing your miracle because sometimes there are miracle moments in our lives that hey Karen, thanks for joining us, but sometimes there are miracle moments that God kind of sets up for us, and sometimes depending on what kind of mood we're in, we can miss the moment. You know, I think we've all been there that, you know, whether you're busy and you're out and about and it's just like, this is really inconvenience now, so I can't do this, God, right? And, you know, I've always tried to learn to become more aware of, you know, when the Holy Spirit drops something in you, to act on it and, you know, the miraculous things that happen as a result of saying yes. Thanks for joining us, Karen. So anybody that wants to like and share the broadcast, that would be amazing, because we want to, like I said to everybody, I'm a storyteller for Jesus. So we want to fill our news feed up with stories about Jesus and testimonies of what he's done for people, what he's done for me. And so that would be super awesome if you like and share the broadcast. And any other the mockers and laughers, we're just going to pray they have a come to Jesus moment, right? Because they're out there too. So anyway, we want to brag on Jesus. And today I wanted to tell a little testimony that came up on my newsfeed on Friday about my VON nurse. And it kind of jogged my memory back to a time that my life was really hard. You know, we go through those seasons of having, hey Matt, how you doing? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. The sun is actually shining here in Canada, which is a super amazing treat. Woohoo! Because it has been so cold this year. I'm telling you, my skin, it just feels like it's like really getting compromised here out in this cold. It's crazy, crazy. Oh, when it gets to be like minus 20 and that, it's just, it's not comfortable at all. Anyway, so it had come up on my timeline, a story about my VON nurse. And it's actually really kind of cool how God works, you know. So in 2014, when I was going through all my crazy stuff with cancer, I had to say goodbye to my VON nurse. So going back a little bit before that, and I read about it in my book. So if you've not read my book, this is my book, Beauty in the Ashes. It's my story through my cancer journey and life in general and all the things that God has done for me. And the subtitle is Seeking God for Your Miracle in the Middle of Your Mess. Because we all have a mess, and that's usually when God tries to show us and teach us something. So that's my story that it just got published last year. So I always had said I was going to dedicate my book to my VON nurse. So a VON nurse here is somebody that comes in your house when you're not well and looks after you. So I don't know what it's called in other places in the world, but it comes from Victorian Order of Nurses. So that's a Canadian thing. So if anybody's lost and is like, what is a VON nurse? That's what a VON nurse was. So in my journey, I had been diagnosed with cancer, and you know, I won't get into all the details of that, but through the journey of the cancer and it being so bad and so aggressive, the doctor did not want me to, she wanted to monitor me closely, let's put it that way. So in that process, she decided to, hey Tasha, how you doing, sister? Thanks for joining, Paulette. I know, twice in one day, right? Woo woo. So I was on here this morning with Madison. So anyway, so in that process, the doctor did not want me to get anything missed. She was so afraid that, thank you, Tom, such a great book. It's my story, right? So she was so afraid that there was going to be something that happened. She wanted to keep a close eye on me. I was going against the odds. I had a rare type of breast cancer when I was diagnosed, and less than 5% of the people. Oh, thank you, Wendy. Look at you guys. You guys are so techie here. She's dropping the link. Thank you, Wendy, and welcome. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks for joining. So in that process of the time from when I was diagnosed, my VON nurse came to see me every week for 2 whole years. 2 whole years. So she became like a friend to me, really. She was just this sweet, kind-hearted lady. She was like my mom's age. So it was just kind of like she became like my medical mama. And she just had this sweet, sweet demeanor. She was always laughing. She was always happy. And, you know, she was this Italian lady. So I remember thinking, oh, I wish I had dark features like her. She had dark hair and, you know, brown eyes and dark features. And I thought, oh man, it would be nice to have dark features like her. Cause you know, I'd look good with no makeup on. And, you know, she always looked great without wearing makeup. So it's funny the things you notice when you have flaws yourself when you're going through that. So she started visiting me right out of the hop when I had my first surgery when I was diagnosed. And she was just a delight. She was always an encouragement to me. And, you know, when you've had a surgery like that, so invasive, especially for a woman, like having a mastectomy and that, drains, you know, all these horrible things that no one really talks about, you know. And optimistic me, I'm like, you know, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be beautiful. I'm going to, you know, rock this. And there's just moments that it's just like, you're tired. You know, I was tired. Madison was obviously a lot younger then. And, you know, I had to go out. It was in the winter. That was in December that I had my surgery, December 16th. So I was going out to the bus in the cold of the winter after having surgery. And I can remember, like, that would just finish me almost for the day. So my beautiful VON nurse, Diane, she was just such a gem. She would rearrange her schedule, and she would always make sure the day she came to see me, I was going to be last on her list for the day, because she loved to sit and have tea with me. And of course she would do all the medical stuff that she needed to, but you know, she wanted to visit with me also. She wanted to find out how I was doing. She was, you know, super interested in so much about my life, and she was always encouraging me. You know, when she would come and I would have no makeup on and, you know, my hair not done and probably hadn't washed it in like forever, because it was such a difficult process early on, after my surgery and my diagnosis. And it was such a process to do my hair, you know, so that's why I really also became creative of wearing hats, wearing headbands with flowers, all these things, because, you know, doing my hair, it was like a big deal. It was like a day-long thing, but that I won't get into that. Home health. There you go. Okay, call it home health there. Is that what it is, Tom? Okay, so she was my home health care nurse. So she would leave me to the end of her day, and we would visit and we would laugh. And during my journey, because I was actually a business owner in the small town that I lived in when I got diagnosed, it was such a big deal catching up with everybody and everybody knowing my updates. And, you know, you had so many people in the town that wanted to know about you, but, you know, I was tired and I couldn't talk on the phone and tell everybody the same thing over and over again. So my sister, who had fluke of all flukes, there was no cancer in her family, but my sister had colon cancer 2 years before me, and she had suggested that I write a blog, which ended up being amazing. So, through this website, you could write a medical blog. I started doing that, and it was such a great thing for me just to dump everything and, you know, leave it, have everybody know. But it was just really therapeutic for me to write about that, all the things that were happening. And then it was like I was killing two birds with one stone, because everybody that needed an update was getting the update on how I was doing also. So I started writing, and that was kind of when I learned that I actually like to write. So it's funny in life when you're so busy and you're doing all these things. And of course I had my own tea room at the time, and being the mom of a special needs daughter, and it was just super busy. So writing ended up being very therapeutic for me, just giving everybody the updates and letting everybody know what they can pray for. And, you know, just like this book, I wrote with a sense of humor and interjected in that. And I kind of write how I talk. So that's exactly how I wrote my blog. And so everybody that knew me that needed the updates, it was an amazing thing to do. And I recommend it to anybody that's going through anything like that, even with family members. Going through things like that. It was such a great thing not to have to answer the same message, you know, dozens of times, because it's exhausting when you're actually going through that process. And Tom would probably understand this, working in healthcare. When you're going through the process, it's exhausting for the family or the person going through it, you know, to keep everybody in the loop and have all those updates out there. And then especially being a business owner, it was just so... Anyway, I said I was going to stick to my notes here. So that being said, I had this same VON nurse since the beginning of my diagnosis, and she was a gem. So she would be so excited. She was always encouraging, Connie, read me your blog. What's your last blog update since the last time I was here? I would make her tea. You know, we would sit there and visit, and she would always encourage me. And, you know, when I didn't feel beautiful, and And, you know, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't beautiful at some of those stages when I got out of the hospital. And you have drain bags hanging out of you and, you know, tubes and all kinds of stuff. But she was always there. She was the best cheerleader. She was always cheering me on, telling me I looked beautiful, telling me I had the best smile, you know, that I didn't even need makeup. And oh man, I sucked it up because I wasn't seeing anybody like except her. She had a front row seat to my life, but she was just always so encouraging and positive and uplifting, and loved, you know, hearing about my doctor's appointment. And I would call, like in my book, I called my doctor my rock star doctor, and there was a reason for that. And you know what? She was just so encouraging, and she became like my best friend. So she became like my best friend through a season that, when you're going through things, and if you've ever had, you know, a diagnosis or been through something really hard like that, it's hard sometimes to share it with the people that are closest to you, because you kind of feel bad because you'd like to change your circumstances and you really pray that, you know, and believe for the miracle, but it's really hard for them. So it's kind of like you don't know what to trickle out and what's okay to let them know, and you don't want them to worry, so you try to manipulate that you know what they find out. So anyway, but Diane was always my steady Eddie. She was always the one that I told everything to, and you know, any updates, any person that I needed to, if I needed a translation of what the doctor had said to me or the oncologist, Diane was my go-to to kind of translate that and put it in my language, and we would dumb it down and be like, okay, so how are we going to tackle this? What's the next thing, right? So through that journey of going through my diagnosis, every week for 2 years, Diane would come and see me, and she would encourage me, and she would breathe life into me. And just on Friday was the anniversary of when I said goodbye to Diane in 2014. And I had got my miracle, and there was no cancer, and my prognosis was good, and the doctors were shaking their heads, and I said goodbye to Diane. And I can remember standing at the door and waving and thinking, this is so weird, like God used somebody that was somebody to come and help me, but she you know, God used her to help me with so many other things. And she said, Connie, you were the most encouraging person. She said, you know, I would come here and I was supposed to be helping you, but you ended up helping me and you encouraged me. And I just would so look forward to seeing you. And I would leave you, you know, the last on my list to make sure that I didn't have a time frame of when I had to leave you. She was so special. I give her a hug, and, you know, I watched her drive away, and I thought, this is so weird. It's like a chapter's closing, and God is doing something new. And, you know, it was just different because she'd become part of my life for 2 years, and, you know, was there every week for 2 years checking up on me. So said goodbye to her, and through a series of events, I ended up doing really well and went back to work. I got myself a job. I got myself a job. And I was a manager of a thrift store chain here in Canada. And I worked with volunteers, and it was a Christian-based company. And I loved it. I was having the time of my life. And I did that for 6 or 7 years. And, you know, it was just something fun. I was a single mom, and it seemed to work with my schedule with Madison. And it was a really good fit, and it was something totally different. I mean, I had been in sales, but you know, I had done lots of things. I worked in nursing, had my own business, restaurant, you know, giftware, all kinds of stuff. But this was just kind of something really fun, and I got to work with volunteers that were, you know, super special and become like family. So through that, and I wrote about this on Friday, but I just wanted to talk about it to encourage people, because sometimes we can miss the miracle moments in life. And I just wanted to encourage people that, you know, don't miss the moment. Don't be in a hurry. Don't miss when the Holy Spirit is saying, you know, go talk to that person, or go message that person, or go encourage that person. Or, you know, I've even given somebody a hug, you know, out in public that and I've asked them, you know, if they're okay with that. And, you know, I just think of all the moments that I could have missed, but the older I got, I learned not to miss those moments and be Jesus with skin on. And I'm here now saying I'm just a storyteller for Jesus. So I want to encourage people, right, to not miss that miracle moment, because there's miracle moments in every day. Everywhere we go, everything we do, God can use us in those moments if we're paying attention and we're in tune with Him. And one of my things that I wrote down here is expect the unexpected. Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And then number 2 is obedience unlocks miracles, right? So it's so important to just, be reminded of those things. So when I was at work, in this new job after cancer, there was a fellow, he would always come in and he shopped in there. He was there a few times a week, I would say a few times a week. And he was like this, rough and tough kind of biker guy, I would say, right? But he thought the world of me. He always connected. He was always kind. Hey, Connie, how you doing? Any deals today? Whatever. And, he would come in several times a week for years. Okay. So this one particular day, now this is going back, I would have now been at the job for probably almost 5 years or something. Can't remember, but it was a long time. And all these years of having this fellow come in several times a week and connecting with him. And I really didn't know much about him. I just thought, man, this guy shops a lot. I wonder where he puts all this stuff. And he loved old things and was always looking for a deal on whatever. Probably a lot of men that, are handy. They're just looking for a deal on whatever and get excited about that. And so there was this one particular day, and we had an auction once a month, and it was always a big deal. There was high-end stuff that went in the auction, and I loved to set it up creatively. And so the one day I was setting up for the auction, and it was so stressful. I was trying to get it done so I didn't have to go back in the evening, because if I didn't get it done, I had to go home, put Madison to bed, and then I would go back and finish, because I just didn't have enough staff to help me properly, and then I was behind the next day. So I can remember we were working short. We didn't really have enough people there. There was a cashier there, but we were just bare bones working short, and I didn't have a lot of help. And I was trying to get this auction done. And when I was working on it, when we were open, you have lots of people asking questions and inquiring about certain items. And all of a sudden I heard this bang, and I was like, oh no, what happened? So in that moment, I thought, I'm gonna let somebody else deal with that, right, and clean that up. I don't have time, and this is all in a matter of a few seconds. I don't have time to go clean that up, and what's happening, and it's just but then it's something that said, Connie, go and see what's happening. I was like, okay, I'll go see what's happening. So I go and I walk over, and in the housewares aisle, something had smashed, and it was literally in a million pieces on the floor, flung all over. I'm trying to corral it all together so nobody steps on it and gets hurt. And I see this fellow that, one of the shoppers that comes in every week, several times a week for years. He's feeling really bad. He's crying. And I was like, oh, it's fine. Don't cry. Oh my goodness. It's not a big deal. We'll clean it up. I hollered at one of the students to go get a broom and a dustpan to clean it up. And, I went over to this fellow and I give him a hug, because he was starting to get really emotional. And it's just oh my goodness, it's, it's no big deal. I can't remember if it was a bowl or a cup or whatever, but it wasn't important, right? It wasn't enough to, get upset with somebody about. So I went over to him and, I said, it's okay, don't worry about it. And he's like, oh, I feel really bad. I'm sorry, Connie. And I said, stop it, don't cry. And just anybody that knows me knows I'm a hugger. So I went over to him to give him a hug and tell him it's okay, right? So as I'm giving him a hug, he's crying harder. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is I was starting to think this is kind of getting strange now. I was like thinking, why is he getting so upset? Like it's just a broken whatever sauce or whatever. So I went over to him and I was hugging him and I was like, it's okay, don't worry about it. And he just like lost it. He had a moment where it was just like, he lost it. He started sobbing like a baby and he wouldn't let go of me when I was hugging him. And I was just like, oh Jesus, help him. Like there's obviously something wrong here. So I said, it's okay, don't worry about it. I said, is everything okay with you? I said, I feel like you need this hug and there's something else that's happening here. And so he proceeded to tell me that, no, it's actually not okay. And he said, my wife passed away yesterday. I was like, I felt so bad. By this time, I was ready to cry, right? And I was just like, I said, oh no. I said, you didn't even say anything about your wife being sick. I said, I feel so terrible. You come in here all the time, several times a week. And I said, I had no idea that your wife was even sick. And so then he starts crying and he says, I know, I couldn't tell you. And I'm thinking, why couldn't you tell me? Why couldn't you tell me? I said, you're in here all the time. And then he just looks at me and the tears rolling down his face. And keep in mind, this is like a, motorcycle rough and tough guy. And, he says, well, I couldn't tell you because I said, you know who she is. And I was like, what? I said, how do I know who she is? How do I know her? Like I said, you've been coming in here forever. And I said, I know your wife because I've never had seen them in there together ever. And he said, yes, actually, you knew my wife really well. And I was just like blown away. Like, when on the spot, you're trying to be like, okay, well, how am I putting these pieces together, And he said, you know my wife really well. And I said, really? And I said, explain this to me. So he proceeded, as he's crying, to tell me that his wife was my VON nurse, my home care nurse, when I was sick. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what in the world? You're telling me that now after you shopped here for, every week for years, several times a week? And he said, Connie, I couldn't tell you. That was confidential. And he said, she wouldn't talk about it. He said, I don't know any of the details of your story, but all I know is that you encouraged her and she loved coming to see you. She always left you till the end so that she didn't have to have a time frame of, when she had to leave. And she only left once you guys had talked and that's all she told me, but you were her favorite. Well, by this time I was almost crying because I wasn't expecting any of that, right? And how easily, and this is where it's like sometimes we miss those miracle moments because I could have easily stayed setting up the auction, let somebody else sweep it and clean it up, but I would have actually missed that moment of finding this information out and being able to encourage him. So, I let him talk and I'm like, what happened? So he told me this story. He said she's had cancer for the last 1.5 years and she took a turn and she passed away yesterday. And, he's crying and I'm holding him in my arms and I was just so gobsmacked. And, I was just like, I thought God is so amazing that he's giving me this opportunity. And I give him a hug. I said, you know what? I grabbed my hands on his face. I can remember grabbing his face and saying, you know what? Your wife encouraged me so much during my cancer journey. And she would tell me I was beautiful when I knew I didn't look beautiful. But she would breathe life into me every time I saw her, every time she would come by my house, every time she came for a visit. It was like she would give me that injection of joy and positivity and encouragement and, totally lift me up, make me feel like I could conquer the world and that I was the most beautiful thing on the face of the earth. And I said, that is what your wife did for me every week for 2 years. And I said, and now you're here standing in front of me and I feel like God's given me the opportunity to all these broken pieces of whatever fell on the floor. I said, I just feel like we're sweeping up all these pieces and he's like taking you back together, you know, and he's using me to help do that. I said, I had no idea about this. And I said, I'm just blown away. Because I said I could have easily not walked over here today, and I can't believe you hadn't told me, because I said to him, I would have loved to gone and visit her. And, you know, we talked and we chatted there, and he said, Connie, you have no idea how much joy you brought into her life. And he said, when she knew that you were working here, she said, she would always question me when I got home, and she would say, okay, you had to tell me what Connie was wearing today, from the top of her head down to her toes, like what color was it, and all the accessories, and, you know, she'd ask all these questions, and she just loved hearing how I was doing. And he would say, and she wanted to make sure, is she still Connie? Does she still laugh loud? Does she still smile? Does she still hug? Does she still talk to everybody and just treat them so important, like they're the most, you know, important thing on the face of the universe? He's like, yes, that's still who she is. She's being herself. And, you know, she was so encouraged just hearing about me. And I was just like, I was so blown away. I was so blown away at this moment that God had given us. And, you know, for obviously me to encourage him, but for me to find out and have this moment of how I encouraged her, and in the middle of his mess and in his, you know, feeling distraught and brokenhearted, how God used me to breathe some life back into him, to love on him, to support him, because he didn't really have a great support system. You know, so he stood there and he pulled out his phone and he pulled up her obituary and he showed me her picture. And, oh, it was heartbreaking. He said, you know, she had the best friends. And she said, you were such a great friend to her. Even though she met you through her work, he said, you were such a great friend to her. And, you know, I was so blessed that day to have that moment that God gave me to find that out about her, and to be able to support him and love on him and just encourage him. And, you know, he kept in contact with me. He actually knocked on my door of my house on her birthday one. I think it was the first year actually after she'd passed away. And he knocked on my door, and, you know, he was really struggling. And he said, you know, she had the best friends. And I just had to come and get encouraged by one of her friends. And he bought me this beautiful red Bakelite bracelet that was in her jewelry collection. He goes, this was one of her favorite bracelets and I want you to have it. And I was just like, oh. So, you know what? I just wanted to jump on here when that was fresh. That was just on Friday that had come up on my timeline, that Friday's date was the anniversary of that happening. And it's funny because in 2014 I had posted about saying goodbye to my VON nurse, and then, you know, some years later about this happening at the store. And I was just reminded about, you know, the miracle moments that we could miss out on in life, you know, if we're not obedient and we're not acting. You know, when the Holy Spirit drops something in our heart, you know, to act on that and be obedient. And we never know what, you know, God's going to use that for. And sometimes it might not be received on the other end. You know, sometimes God might try to use us, but that person's not open to it. But you know what? We have to, you know what? Know that you've done your part, and know that, you know, God can use us. We just need to stay in the faith and in the position and watch out, because there will be miracles that happen, and there will be moments that you'll be able to, you know, share with other people and be a storyteller for Jesus, just like me, and, you know, encourage somebody with a testimony, you know, because those moments can happen all the time. They can happen every day. And I just wanted to, you know, jump on and share that today, because this was a really special lady in my life. And I was so bummed out to know that she had passed away, and I didn't even know she was sick. And to think, oh man, like I could have encouraged her, like she encouraged me so much through my journey, but that's not the plan that God had. But yet I met her husband that I didn't even know was her husband, and I was able to encourage him. And for a season afterwards, until he moved away, I was able to encourage him, and I wrote the dedication in my book was for her. So I just wanted to jump on and, encourage people to just, be Jesus with skin on. And if someone, sometimes there's people are going through some really hard things out there, and it's not easy out on those streets. So many people that have bad diagnosis right now, that they're living through stress. Somebody maybe they know that are sick, they're the caregiver for somebody in their family. There's so many stories out there, and I just wanted to encourage people to, don't give up. Don't miss the miracle. Keep being faithful and listening to when, the Holy Spirit's whispering something in your ear, just act on that. I just encourage you to act on it, because we never know. Hey, Lori, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Because we never know, what God's going to do that when we're obedient. And you know what? We put feet to that, and we're being active, and we never know how he's going to use us, right? I'm always amazed when I look back and I see the testimonies that have come out of just my obedience, and I just wanted to jump on here today and encourage people that there are miracle moments in every day, to not miss it, because those miracle moments can be so encouraging in our faith. And those are the types of things, when they happen, they increase our faith so much. It's just to another level, right? And I just wanted to jump on and encourage you that with God all things are possible. And when we see these tokens from heaven happen, and these miracle moments that happen in everyday life, it just changes something in us, and it just gives us hope. And like I always say that scripture in Mark, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief, because sometimes we have unbelief, right? I know on my journey of walking through what I walked through, and that was another thing that my VON nurse got to see, was my faith, right? And she was always amazed. She's like, Connie, your faith never wavers. And I would write about it on my blog, and it was obvious, that I was a Christian. You come into the house and there was worship music on, and I didn't even know how to use my TV remote control. I mean, I was always reading or listening to things, having the worship music on. So that was a testimony to her, right? That she got to see my faith lived out and walked through, and it was the same thing for my doctor. So sometimes when we are going through challenging situations in our life, it's really important, to live by what the word tells us to do, right? And hey, Sharon, good to see you, woman of God. I love you. Purple hair, don't care. I love that last week. That was awesome. She's amazing. You should like and follow her. Yes. Because she loves Jesus. But, just to encourage people, be Jesus with skin on. And, miracles can happen. And miracles do happen still today. And I'm a living, walking miracle. So don't give up on your miracle. Whatever it is you're praying for and believing for, God has a miracle with your name on it. Pull it down from heaven. It's yours for the taking. And you know what? Just start speaking and believing it. And everywhere you go, be Jesus with skin on, because God will give you those miracle moments with other people. And it's exciting to have those moments happen in your life. And it changes everything. Like I say, you can't argue with a miracle. So when you see a miracle happen and God changes something, it changes you forever. I'm telling you, it does. When you have that testimony, it changes you forever. And you know what? God can use us all. He's no respecter of persons. So he can use me. He can use you. Miracles can happen to you. They can happen to me, every day out there. God is so faithful. So God moments. Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? So, and anybody that hasn't had my book, it's here. It's Beauty in the Ashes. It's my story of what God's done for me, how he's healed and touched me and delivered me, and where I am today. Woo! and it's years in the process. So sometimes things don't happen overnight. It's like my daughter's miracle that I talk about. For 20 years I prayed for her miracle before it came. But you know what? The important thing is not to give up, because we never know God's timing. Like I say, you know what? God's never late. He's never early. He's always on time every time. So that being said, I gotta go make supper here in Canada. It's 20 to 5, but thank you all for joining me. And I just wanted to encourage you to listen to that still small voice when the Holy Spirit is speaking to you. Don't put it on the shelf, act on that and see what happens, and see what, miracle you can be in the middle of. Right? Because when you're in the middle of a miracle, I'm telling you, it changes everything about your life. And it's so exciting working for Jesus, right? Woohoo! Anyway, so never forget, little is much when God is in it. And that is my theme song, because I'm telling you, every time God is in it, we're going to win it. And he's going to get us through to the other side, and there's going to be an amazing testimony. Sometimes it's not fun in the mess, but you know what? We're going to get out to the other side, and then we're going to testify and share with people, just like I'm doing today. You know what? Because that's what he does. And there's power in the testimony, just like the Bible says. So share, share, share. Anyway, I love you guys, and I'm just giving you love and hugs from Canada. Happy Monday. Little as much when God is in it. Yes, I love it. That is my favorite song. Sharon, I'm telling you, that's been my favorite song for the last probably 15 or 20 years. So it's just something I grab onto, and I come from a family of people singing, and I'm always singing little excerpts from songs, but I always just get so encouraged, right? And I'm a worshiper, I play the piano, and you know what? I just get so encouraged just singing some of those old songs. Songs you don't even hear anymore, but you hear them in my house. I'm like an old soul, but that's okay, because God will use us all, right? We're all different and unique. We're all limited edition, and that's what makes it exciting, because none of us are the same. Woohoo! Anyway, I love you guys, and I want you to have a great Monday, and I will talk to you soon. Love from Canada. See you later.